My guest today is Dr. Maria Luque, and she is a menopause fitness expert, a health science professor, and an Air Force veteran. She's passionate about helping menopausal women become healthier, stronger, and happier. Her PhD dissertation was all about enhancing quality of life in menopause, which sounds absolutely perfect to me. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you for having me. I'm just so excited to be here and talk about making women happier.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to start with quality of life in menopause. So, what does that mean to you?
Well, to me, it means to be able to do all the things that I want to do without constantly criticizing myself and not being able to do it, or keeping myself from doing them because I think other people think something of me. Quality of life to me, it means I'm able to move. So physical, emotional well-being. It's a big ball of a lot of things for me. And I think why I'm so passionate about it is because quality of life, as you see, is a very difficult thing to describe because it is so individual for every single person out there. And it is the first question that I tend to want to approach with women that I coach is, what does that mean to you? And that is a hard one. A lot of people can't quite describe it.
And do you think it becomes more important in midlife that we start focusing in on what quality of life looks like for us individually?
100%. I think because menopause is somewhat our um, start into the next phase of our lives, I think menopause becomes this vehicle for us to explore what it is that we want to do because we're being challenged every day by our hormonal changes and what's going on. And it's not just hormones, right? It's life, it's what's happening outside of us. And now is the time for us to have a sit down and say, what have I learned? Where am I now? And what do I want to do in the future? So having to sit down and really write down, what does the quality of life mean to me without taking into consideration external factors such as I should be doing this, or this is expected from me, or I'm too old to be doing this, when in essence it's all about what gives you that little smile when you think about doing something. This is what I say: quality of life is those things that you want to do, that when you think about doing them, it gives you a little warmth in your heart and it makes you smile. That is what you should be pursuing.
And I think we have this idea, certainly in Western culture, that idea of smiling, that idea of joy, it kind of seems to be going away. That's the domain of younger women and not necessarily women of our age, which just strikes me as a bit bonkers, really.
It's very bonkers. I think because we should have more to smile about. We are, by the time we get to this stage in our lives, although menopause, wow, what a roller coaster, right? But it's a phase. We will get to the other end of it. It is, we've already made so many mistakes. We've already learned so many lessons. I look back at some younger women now and I'm thinking, my goodness, I'm so happy that I'm not there anymore because I was so unaware, so insecure, all these things that I was there. I did all those things, but I'm no longer there. I'm in a different place where I can make a better decision for myself because I've already made all those mistakes. So let's take account of those things and say, what have I learned? Let's just build upon that. I'm not a big proponent of just dwelling in the past and uh, just using past experiences to move forward, but not taking account of what we maybe lost passion for, or things that we used to really like to do that we don't do anymore. Those things are really important. And also lessons such as, I've already done 50 diets. Why am I so tempted to do one more diet when I know they don't work? So that is those heart to hearts that are critical right now. If we don't do it now, we're just going to stay on that hamster wheel and continue on down the road. And we all know menopause, most of us hopefully live another 30 years at least after menopause. This is a really good time to figure out if we want to stay in this, like I like to say, the roller coaster or the hamster wheel that we were on, or if we want to step out and say, this, I've done my rounds over here, I'm ready to just kind of do my own path.
And what was it that led you to do your dissertation on menopause? Because that was quite a while ago, wasn't it? You weren't in menopause when you decided to do that, were you?
No, I was far away from it, about 10 years away from it, because now I'm right in the middle of it. It was because I had friends and clients that were going through it, and they constantly were asking me questions about, well, what am I going to do now? And I had no awareness about menopause or what it is or how it can impact life. All I saw is that there were a lot of people that I really loved and still love to this day, but that were struggling. They were struggling with a lot of issues, and I didn't know how to help them. And I thought, what a better opportunity than to use my dissertation to really dive into the topic and do a little bit of, I did a qualitative study, small one, but I asked women about their experience. And for me, it's always been a non-weight loss approach. So I wanted to go with quality of life because quality of life is so subjective. So when I talked to women, one person had more hot flashes, the other one was dealing more with mental issues such as anxiety. And so it was so individual that weight loss became so unimportant in the grand scheme of things that I thought there's got to be a way to just ask the questions of what is quality of life for you, and how does physical activity impact that quality of life? Because I am a huge proponent of movement and physical activity for better quality of life overall. So it was very organic. I'm lucky and I'm happy because one of the driving factors was also I will be there eventually, hopefully, and then I'll be more informed. And I am. So I entered menopause, although I got my ticket to that roller coaster about 3 years ago now. And it's been quite ups and downs, but I'm more informed. So I do feel like I'm able to cope with what's coming and what has come much better. And that's why I'm on such a path to inform women, and earlier and earlier. We need to educate women in their 30s already or in their 20s to know that this is a phase of life that will eventually come and that you should be prepared for. Not scared, but just know what it is.
I'm always saying, be prepared, not scared. Yes.
Yes.
That's my motto.
I love it.
And yeah, it's so important, isn't it, to when we understand what's coming. And also, I was just talking to somebody just last night that I think women are also beginning to, they're forgetting that this is just a phase and that this roller coaster will end. And we will reach the still calm, still waters ahead. And in fact, that's where I am now because I'm long past menopause. And, I love it. Absolutely love it. But I think women think, that they go into it and then this is going to be it forever, which is why then all of those narratives, and maybe we'll talk about some of those, the narratives that we get so scared about, women get so nervous and concerned about, they think it's going to be forever. They think they'll have the brain fog forever, and for example. So it's this knowledge and increasing knowledge, I think, is just so important. So I love your approach to that.
Thank you. I think it's important to acknowledge that we know that as long as we are kept thinking that this is the worst thing that will ever happen to you now, that we are more prone to buying things that we don't need, right? So there's a purpose on why a narrative is out there to let us believe that menopause is always horrible. There's always a supplement or a treatment that you can buy, or a program or a hack of some sort. So it leaves us to be vulnerable. And it is, because a lot of us get to a point where we feel desperate. What am I going to do now? And we talk too little about that transition. And again, that it is a transition. And for some women, sadly, it can last a decade. And that is, I've had a friend who really was that long, and now she's on the other end. But I also have friends and clients that never had any symptoms. Their period just stopped. They were done. They don't have any symptoms that we hear about. And we need to talk more about those women as well. That is an actual possibility. And it's not like a lottery. We don't know who's going to get which one, but knowing that it's not all bad, and also knowing, like you said, I think for me, knowledge has always been calming. I think if I understand something, it gives me calm because I know that if this happens, I have a game plan for this. Or if this happens, then I kind of know what I could be doing. So it gives me the possibility to be prepared or feel like I'm prepared. And often we feel like we're prepared and then it hits us and it is overwhelming. And I've been there myself. But still, then we're like, okay, what can we do? I need to pick this and I'm going to go this way. So yes, we need to talk a lot more about that kind of finite, that there's an end. And I honestly, I don't recall anybody that I've talked to that is in postmenopause that says that they hate it on the other side, especially if they've had a lot of symptoms, because there comes a sense of, and this is, I'm hoping, I'm going to get there soon, I'm hoping, but that sense of calm that comes with it, and that kind of sense of not caring quite as much about what other people think, when we've spent most of our lives caring so much about what other people think. That to me sounds fantastic. I want that. I want to get there.
It's funny. I went to an art gallery on Saturday with two very old friends. We decided, in fact, in October we will have known each other for 40 years because we went to college together, and we were sitting outside this art gallery, and a woman came out and said, "If you want coffee, you need to come to the counter and order." Which is what she really meant was, if you're going to sit there, you need to have a coffee. And in a younger life, I would have thought, "Oh, crumbs, I need to go and buy a coffee." And we just all sat there and ignored her. It was great. We just sat there. It was, early on, reasonably early on a Saturday morning. And we just carried on chatting. And none of us cared. And then we had a similar incident inside the gallery because we were busy chatting. And somebody gave us a dark look, and it was like, we just didn't care. And it was really quite revolutionary for me because I've always been very conscious of other people and of not taking up too much space and not being loud and shrinking a little, which is what I think a lot of women do as we get older. We shrink, we take up less space, whereas actually I'm taking up more space now and I'm being louder and I'm more confident and I love it and it's brilliant.
I love how you say taking up more space, because that is what we need to do. We need to be more comfortable with saying, no, this is my space. Yes, I'm going to take it. Thank you very much. I love it. That's what we need to hear. We need more postmenopausal women to come out and say, look, this is great over here.
It
You'll
really
get there.
is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And that we are not broken. This is the other thing. I mean, I know that you're quite concerned about some of the menopause narratives out there, aren't you? As I am.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
I really hate, like I was talking earlier, the narrative that there's something that we need to fix. And there's a reason, because there's money to be made. And now that I'm glad that we're talking about things more. When I got into this space over a decade ago, there was very few people talking about it. It was hard to find research. It was hard to find things. It was hard to find anybody that was talking about it. So I felt like, okay, this is the right thing. I need to start talking about this. And now everyone's talking about it because it's a $60 billion industry. Now everyone wants a piece of the pie, and voices that are more reasonable are being drowned out because, we don't have the platform that someone that has billions of dollars has to push out there. And I really dislike when bigger companies or personalities that come out and have billions of dollars at their disposal and they sell it as compassion. I'm in this, I'm a menopausal woman, and I'm creating this community, and now I also have a skincare line. Not that you need it, but here are my $80 creams that you don't need. I'm not telling you that you need it, but you could buy it if you wanted to. But again, I'm not telling you that you need it because you're beautiful. So that is, you'll be roped into narratives of there's always something that to be fixed: your skin, your hair, your aging, your body, how you look, your attitude has to be checked, all of these things. And I do believe, as I'm a huge proponent of getting the information on hormone therapy, if that is for you, we know that there's value in that, but to also sell HRT as the solution for everyone is another thing that is being pushed. And I see a lot more being pushed. And that's just not true, because HRT is only good for a certain number of things and a certain number of symptoms. And then it might not be good for you, if you know, depending on your history. So we tend to make things so simple and so difficult at the same time, because it's not simple. Menopause is not simple. There's not one approach that is adequate for everyone. And chances are that all the supplements that are being pushed out there are not going to work, just like the other supplements that we've been pushed our entire life for something is also not working. You know, I had a friend of mine who reached out to me the other day and said, what do you do about menopausal hair loss? And I have a friend who bought the supplement and it's not seemed to work. It's very expensive. And I said, well, yeah, because it probably isn't working. But because it's very expensive, you get the illusion that it works. So, but also another narratives that we're being sold is that you have to work out a certain way. You absolutely have to do this, or else you just will fail. And so it's this all or nothing approach that is being sold. And as a fitness expert and as someone that is just trying to get women to move more, it is hurtful to tell women that heavy lifting and high intensity training is the only way that you will ever get rid of menopausal belly fat and gain muscle. And that's just not true. That, first of all, it's not true. Is it a good tool? It's great. But is it possible for everyone to do it? It's not. So we discourage women from either getting proper treatment or even starting to do things that are good for them, because we're telling them, unless you do this, it's not worth even doing. So that overwhelmness. I have a lot of women that reach out to me and say, I've read all the books, I've done all the courses, and I'm more confused than ever. What do I do? And that's where we are, where that analysis paralysis that is happening currently. And so we need to just kind of stop with the selling of things and trying to help women to navigate and find their own path here.
I was going to ask you about analysis paralysis. Yeah, it's absolutely that, isn't it? It's that women are bombarded with stuff now, and it's really difficult to see the wood for the trees. It's just
yes.
like, who do I believe? Who do I trust? That's really difficult.
But honestly, it really isn't that difficult. It is, I think we have those innate alarm bells that go off that we've always had since we were children, and we've learned to turn them off. Since we're little, we're learned to turn off that innate, I don't want to hug this person, or I don't want to do this. I don't want you to, I don't want you to brush my hair, but we tell the children that we are brushing the hair anyway. So slowly but surely, you're being told to override your instincts. And as we go through adulthood, it's over and over, just be polite, just do this, never mind that this in work environments the same way, right? Where it is women come across, you can't be assertive because then you're bitchy if you're those things. So we've learned to ignore our own instincts and take our cues and demands from external factors. And so when we're in this space and you're following people on Instagram or wherever you are, and they say something, and they could be, I follow a lot of people and that I find are credible, but now and then some people say some ridiculous things, and I immediately will unfollow them, because if you go down that line, I think you have a responsibility as a expert in whatever you're doing to not spread any misinformation. And so when you go down that line, you will find that they're selling something that now is there. So if something makes you feel bad when you're following someone, or you're like, I don't know, I don't know. That doesn't sound right. It probably is because it's not right. So we need to be better at understanding where we're coming from and to listen to that. Am I being sold something? Why is this making me feel kind of defensive, this messaging right now? And why do I feel like this isn't right for me? But then we overwrite that because it's Dr. So and so or someone with 10 million followers must be true. So I think that we need to be better at um, deleting the external factors and influence and listening a little bit more to what we already know. We've already been in our bodies by this time at least 45 years. So I think we know a lot. We actually know more about our bodies than anybody else. So why do we always dismiss our own knowledge so quickly?
I love that idea that we've forgotten how to do it. I love that, yeah, that we've turned off that switch. I think that's so true. And I think it's part of the modern world, and it contributes to the general sense of overwhelm and everything else, that
Mm.
and that being bombarded with information, it becomes really difficult to distinguish. But yes, if we tap into our gut and if we trust ourselves, we can get back to a situation where we can distinguish what is right and what isn't. You're absolutely spot on. We have such a polarized situation here in the UK now. It's, I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but it's dreadful. We have two camps, and we have one camp that I'm not part of that is saying that, menopause is a deficiency,
Yeah.
that it's a deficiency disease, that we don't just have to take HRT for menopause, but we have to take it to live. Otherwise, we're going to die of all of these chronic diseases associated with old age. But, we're going to have a significantly shorter life if we don't take hormone therapy. And what's happening is, there's a whole group of people who, for example, well, A, who don't want to take hormone therapy, but B, there are women who can't, have been advised not to because they have a hormone related cancer.
Mhm.
And they are now petrified because people on social media are saying, you know, will reduce your risk of this by 50% if you take HRT. And they're quoting these studies, and as you said, the nuance is lost. That, there's so menopause is not easy. You can't just say you're going to reduce your risk of this by this, boom, boom, because such and such a research paper said this. Well, I'm doing a master's degree at the moment, and I'm reading lots of research papers, and I know that if you've got one research paper saying one thing, you'll find a research paper saying almost exactly the opposite. And it will be just as robust or not as robust as the first one. So it's awful here in the UK, and I fear that it's spreading elsewhere. I see it changing in the US, and it worries me. It really worries me.
Well, I do think, well, you're having conversations in the UK when it comes to policies and things like that, which we're far behind in the US. We don't even have a conversation about policies and
Mm.
any kind of anything. There are, maybe some companies that have menopause support in their HR, but most of the time, menopause just isn't something that we talk about unless it's to sell something. And so that is really scary. So I don't think that there are camps here yet. There's the camp that spreads misinformation. There's the camp, the tinier camp that is trying to be like, but no, this can be a positive experience amidst a lot of challenges. But we do have to acknowledge that it is challenging. But to say that everyone needs to be taking estrogen is just ridiculous. It's just the same as with any other treatment. We can't just say just because it works for a lot of people that it's going to be good for other people as well. Like you said, history of any kind of cancer, I can't take it even if I wanted to because I wouldn't take I can, but I wouldn't because I have a family history of a cancer. So I know that my risk factors are higher, so I'm just not going to do it. But there's a lot of other, we have to recognize that there's a lot of other treatments out there that are not estrogen, right? But we don't, I think HRT has always been polarizing. It's either you're on that yay HRT, or you're a boo, it's going to kill you. When the reality is that's in the middle somewhere.
Yes.
HRT is great for a lot of people,
Yes.
and it is not good for other people. So why do we want to do
even
this?
if it's good, we don't all need to have it forever.
Yes, but because we don't need it, right? We
No.
don't need it. Yes. And it is a personal decision. If you want to stay on estrogen forever, more power to you if that is your decision. That is a personal decision that you want to take. But some people take it for a number of time to treat a specific symptom, such as hot flashes, and when that is over, they come off of it and it's fine. Or again, personal. That's such a personal decision. So to boo people that don't want to take it, or to make them be afraid that they are doing the wrong thing, is really bad. I feel it's very similar to breastfeeding. So I had a baby, and it was the whole thing about, well, if you don't breastfeed for at least a year, or breastfeed at all, then you're just a horrible mother. Your baby's going to not be as smart and as healthy as people. What if you can't breastfeed? What if you don't want to breastfeed? What if, there's so many factors involved, and we know that there is not a detriment to the baby in the long term anyway. But it is so polarizing. And I think those topics, anytime we can split a population apart, they're more vulnerable to misinformation, and they're more vulnerable to be sold something that they don't need. And so we need to be aware that this is a marketing 101, and it's been done forever. So if we are polarized, we're much easier controlled. And that's in any aspect of life, politics, health, anything, right? So
that's fascinating. Yeah, you're absolutely right there, aren't you? Wow, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, light bulb. If we're polarized, we're more easy to control. Yeah,
it's always been like that.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
When you look at it, the way that menopause is being approached now, or in weight loss, it's been the exact same game plan forever. And when we're looking at these new weight loss drugs that are out, that are fantastic and that are changing lives for a lot of people, but now everyone needs to take it, and it's applicable to everyone. So we're creating these camps there as well, of saying, well, that one-on-one misinformation and the fear that is being instilled has always been the same. We're just changing the outfit on the marketing. It's a new outfit. It's a new cute dress that they put on there, and everyone's like, oh, look, it's cute. It's new. Have never seen it before, but you've seen it. It just looks different. They make it look very different. And so menopause is being approached like that right now. And it makes me really scared, because women are being duped into believing and being misinformed, right? That, again, we're going back to paralysis analysis, where women are just, well, but I'm told that I need to do this, but then I need to do that. And then they don't have time to think about, what is it actually that I want to do? Like, what is my goal? What is my ultimate goal that I want to do? And we're coming back to that initial question that you had. What would it be for me to have a better quality of life? What things do I need to implement? And I can tell you right now that more Instagram and more knowledge is not going to be it. That does not help you. I've had to minimize and stay off of social media, because I can't handle the sheer amount of misinformation that I see. And it makes me so upset, because there's nothing I can do.
Me too. I get very cross. Cross.
Yes, I'm ready to furiously type away in the comments, yes. And then I think, what am I doing?
Ooh, stop.
I know. I don't do it, because I know it's in the void, and then people are just waiting for you to have a reaction. And so it makes you feel like you have no control and you can't help. So I made a effort and said, I'm going to step back. I'm going to focus on harnessing the power of my community. I'm going to talk and inform people that have said, yes, I want to have knowledge from you, and they subscribe to my newsletters or reach out to me directly. Those are the women that I want to impact, because they say, yes, I want to hear from you. Otherwise, I don't want to yell into the void anymore, because that void is so vast.
But you also talk about the need to do the work, don't you? And I think the void, that marketing thing is it's a quick fix. Everybody's looking for a quick fix. They're looking for the magic pill. So that they don't have to do the work, so that they don't have to change the diet, so they don't have to do more exercise, so they don't have to think about who do I want to be and what are my values now. They don't want to do it, do they? A lot of the
No,
time.
no, most of the time, I think that there's a small number of people that are ready to dig in, because just like therapy or anything that requires you to look inside yourself and to do the hard work takes time. And it actually it's a little bit like Pandora's box. You don't know, when you crack that lid open, you don't know what will come out, because you've been really good at just pretending it's not there. So you have to be ready to be able to face whatever comes up, because we know that we may have a dysfunctional way of looking at food and movement because of, who knows, trauma that happened in the past, or just learned behaviors that are ingrained in you over 4 decades of life. And that takes time. There's no 14-day fix for this. There's not a 30-day program that will completely change your mind and improve everything in your life. But I think there are ways people have to be more realistic at saying, well, 30 days, if I can commit to 30 days of something, it might put me on the right path. But you're not going to have solved your problems in 30 days. I just don't believe in that. And when that is advertised, if I advertise a sign up for coaching with me for a year and we will make some progress and you'll be on your way, and there's someone over here that says 30 days, magic fix it all hack, you will be a new person at the end. Women are tempted. Here's the quicker one. This person has figured out how to retrain my brain in 30 days. And as long as that's there, women have to be at that space to say, okay, I'm tired of spending, even if it's cheaper, on this hack. $199 over here versus $5,000 over here. And then when you count the diets and the programs that you did that did not work, and you add up all the money that you spend and the energy and the hope and the disappointment and the failure you felt with that, it's going to be a lot more money on this side of the quick fixes than taking the time. And not even, doesn't have to be expensive, but taking the time to be able to say, okay, here are some tools. Let me sit down and answer this one question. And that question that you asked in the beginning is still the first question that I ask people. How would you define quality of life? And name 3 things that improve your quality of life. Just start there. And you'll be surprised at how many people just don't do it. It's an easy step, but it makes you sit down and really think about it. And until you're ready to do that work, I don't think that a sustainable solution that will be positive change in your life as quality of life will happen, because you're not ready. And not to say, no, I don't blame anybody that's not ready. There will be a time that you're ready, but until you're ready to do that work, you'll be on that hamster wheel.
Yeah. And it's difficult, isn't it? Yeah, getting to the stage when you're ready, and you can't force anybody until
No.
yeah. I know of women who have been, wedded to HRT, for example, until such time as they realize that actually it's not working for them, because they've tried this one, they've tried that one, and they've had that dose changed and that dose changed, and then eventually they go, it's not working. But I thought it would, so I just went along, and I wasn't ready to have the confidence to say, no, this isn't working for me, I need to look at something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, you work on body image a lot, don't you? And why is body image such an issue for women around menopause?
Well, body image is, I think, an issue for women in general from early on because there's such a big drive to look a certain way. Since, puberty has a big drive of body image issues because our body changes. And menopause is compared in studies as well. The increase in body image issues and women feeling negatively about their bodies comparable to what girls feel when they're going through puberty, because there's a big push, and it's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Estrogen rises, our body changes, and then menopause, it actually declines, our body changes. But it's a big physical change for a lot of us that seems out of control, especially that belly fat, right? Most everyone just focuses right in. I just cannot get rid of this belly fat. What do I need to do? I will buy anything that will tell me that I can get rid of it. Unless you chop it off, it's there. And there's a reason. I've heard you talk on a different podcast too. There's a hormonal reason on why there's a higher risk of you getting more belly fat. And it's not because you're lazy or because you're doing the wrong workout or you're eating the wrong foods. It's because your hormones are changing, and there's a complex way on why it happens, but it isn't necessarily you. Now, again, there's so many things out there that are telling us that, yes, you can change it, you can do this, you can take control of it, which is not true. So women feel, as one of my clients described it as a betrayal. She felt betrayed by her body because no matter what she was doing wasn't working. And then I started asking the questions of what's the working part? Like, how is it supposed to work? And we always go back to saying, well, I used to do this diet and it would always fix the issue. I used to just, do this workout and it would fix the issue. And when we talk about the issue, it's always weight loss. Always. So when we relate to working, it's weight loss. And so when we get to a point in this stage of life where our bodies do something different from what we want it to do, and there's no control over it, that body image monster is out. It's just, I might as well just give up. My body just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't matter what I do. I try to manipulate it. So we need to address, I don't think that body image is something that necessarily starts in menopause, maybe for some women, but I think it's something for a lot of us. I've been very open about my body image struggles, but for a lot of us, it has been a underlying kind of that monster in the closet that we've had successfully put away, and now it's peeking out, but we've never talked to it. We're like, it doesn't exist. And now we're being forced to have a conversation and we don't know how to talk to it. So for me, I think reconnecting with your body in menopause is one of the three things that I work with. So I have three pillars of how to have a better life in menopause and how to reimagine life. Reconnecting with your body is one of them. And it's the biggest part, because I believe that when women truly reconnect with their body and make peace with where they are, not accept failure, because that's, a lot of people feel that when they accept where they are, it means the same as giving up, which is not the same thing. Doesn't mean you should just eat like crap and not move ever. It just means that you can only do a certain amount of things. And if your body is at a certain space when you've already done all the things that are possibly possible for you, then you have to accept that that's where your body needs to be now. Will it be somewhere different when you transition into postmenopause? Possibly. But when you accept that your body is doing something that it needs to do right now while it's battling this kind of roller coaster situation from a hormonal perspective, then you're giving yourself that self-compassion to say, this is where it needs to be, and I'm okay with this. And then tomorrow you take another step. But I do believe that body image is something that we need to address, just like the hard work. We need to have those conversations with ourselves and saying, what about my body do I hate so much, or am I so discontent with? Why do I feel this way? because most of the time it has nothing to do with functionality, how our body moves and what it can do. It has everything to do with how we perceive. And again, that is the key. How we perceive our body looks. It isn't about how other people perceive it necessarily. It's how what we think that other people think about us. And so it's very complex, but movement plays a huge role in this body image part. So moving has been shown to make you feel better about your body. Resistance training specifically has been shown to be a huge tool to make it better and to make yourself feel better and to make yourself feel more powerful, stronger. It's beautiful to feel stronger. So I think that's why, for me, the conversation has shifted a lot into addressing body image with women, because I see it being the number one challenge in almost everyone that reaches out to me has that at the number one list. And that's heartbreaking for me. And so it's very important to address that. But again, our body image isn't something that someone else can solve for you with a pill or with a program. You need to do the work, and until you're ready to do that work, but it's so worthwhile. If you can have an honest conversation with that body image monster and make friends with it, it's liberating, it's life-changing. And so that's why I think it's so important.
I find it very interesting because I am the child of an overweight family, and there was never any pressure put on me, ever. I could eat what I liked. I was a podgy child. I wasn't a physically fit child. I saw certainly my father decline into ill health because of inactivity. So I've lived my life differently from around the age of 30, probably. But I actually haven't struggled with body image in midlife and through menopause, as I see other women doing that, because I always say I quite like the way I'm aging. And the fact, I've always thought in terms of what my body can do rather than how my body looks, because it never looked particularly brilliant from my perspective, but it was functional. It was highly functional. And, like I did a half marathon at 50 and things like that, which I can't now do because I've been told not to run. But that's another story. But so I'm very proud of my body. I've quite I like the fact that it can lift weights. It can, lift my bag in the aeroplane, that I can still walk about, and now I'm starting cycling, and I can run 40 lengths of a 25-meter pool, and I'm pleased. I've swum a kilometer, and those things are very important to me. So I have a different perspective. But then I saw an interview with Kate Winslet that she had done. It was on social media, and she was talking about all of the pressures that are put on women from year dot. And most girls are taught very early on, I never was, don't eat that. Or, you've put on too much weight, or, it's all about the weight. It's all about how the bodies look. And she was talking about how when she's on the red carpet, there are always comments, and she said that awful word, svelte, that she's looking particularly svelte, and she hates this word. And we never say this about men. You don't see a man on the red carpet say, "Oh, he's looking very svelte today." And it's these awful double standards. And yet what I also see, me going off on my little soapbox, but I see that the women who particularly struggle with menopause are the women whose physical appearance, that of their face and their body, has been a big part of who they are, of how they identify, or athletes, people who've been particularly physically able. So I wasn't either of those, I wasn't a great beauty and I wasn't a great athlete, so I'm all right, But I see that those are the people who really struggle, particularly with body image, because their bodies are changing, and they want it to stay the same because they've been told by society that is the essence of female beauty, or the essence of female physical capability. And it isn't, because we have this whole, third of our lives where we're not reproductive women.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's incredible, and you bring up such a important point, because I think there's a cultural aspect to body image as well. I was on a podcast a few years ago, and the person I was talking to asked me when I first started having body image issues. And it took me back, because I thought I've never really thought about it. And it didn't start until I moved to the States.
Yeah, interesting.
I didn't
We're
have
going to dig
any.
into that, aren't we? Yeah, let's dig into that.
I
Go
didn't
on.
have any. I honestly, I grew up the same way as you did. I mean, my family wasn't super overweight, but also not skinny. They were. We ate what we had and we did what we did, but we moved a lot. So I grew up in Germany, so everybody moves a lot still to this day. It's a very active culture. And I never thought about food. I ate as much as I wanted. I moved. Their diets was not, that was not a word that I've never heard diet in my early childhood.
Yeah, I didn't. Never.
It wasn't something to really think about. And so I come here and I think I was so unprepared for the diet heavy culture, and that kind of, you have to look a certain way, that it just consumed me. I'm like, whoa, what am I supposed to be? And I've never been in a larger body, so I don't have, and we know that body image has nothing to do with what the size of your body is, but what your brain is telling you. And so it took me by surprise. So I've been really mindful of exploring. And again, this is this exploration and doing the hard work of where these issues come from. And there's a lot of cultures, a lot of, like, for instance, Latino cultures, or I come from I have a Spanish heritage. It's not bad to have your child be a little rounder, a little chunkier, right? It's like, ooh, you're so cute. And someone that is really skinny, we don't want a really skinny child, because it's seen as being unhealthy or poor because you can't feed your children. And so culturally, it's more accepted, given that leads to other problems down the line if that is something that is constantly taken. But we have to have that awareness on where our, like, learned behaviors and learned thought process come from, and culture plays a huge role. So when you brought that up, I thought that was really great, because you grew up in a completely different culture, and I had the same experience.
But my culture was specific to my family, because my culture is still Anglo-Saxon, and in terms of body image awareness, it's very like the US. And I write about this, and I think all of this impacts gendered ageism, and Anglo-Saxon societies are, in my view, really awful. And I think it's very interesting that you have this very mixed cultural background. You've got German, you've got Spanish, and now you're in America. So you're able, and because you moved quite late to America, and I think you were in your 20s, weren't you? That it was, you're able to see the culture like through a window, which I always think is fascinating, because you're not subsumed by that culture. You're able to sort of look and say, this is interesting, or this is a bit weird, and how does that contrast with what I experienced? And I think that is a very powerful way, because it enables us to be more curious, to be less accepting of the dominant narrative, to be more suspicious, to be more skeptical. And I think, it's really fascinating, I think, that you've got this background that appears, from my perspective, to enable you to have a more open perspective on all of the things that you are encountering.
Yes, I completely agree. I think that my exposure to a lot of cultures, and when you live in Europe, I think have more of that anyway, because you're so close to different countries. But because I grew up as a Spanish child in Germany, I already grew up with two very different cultures, right? Germans are very straightforward. They're not known for their emotional, like, warmth, but they're very, very, very warm people. They just don't come across that way. And Spaniards are all about living la vida muy bien. right? Like they love life. They are very, very warm. So two cultures that are completely opposite. So I got exposed to that. And when I came here, I didn't quite know what to do. I've always explained that the States is such an upside down world because I learned to, in Europe or in Germany for sure, you work to live. And here you live to work here.
Yeah.
Everybody. So I got into that
Totally.
grind of I just need to work more so I can live more, or live more so I can work more. And in Germany, it's all about I would do my time and then I take my vacation and then I enjoy life. And here it's so opposite. And I've over the past decade, especially with the research in menopause, and now that I am in it, I've really taken to looking at myself and doing the work that I tell other women to do is the work that I'm doing myself. So I know how hard it is, but to look at it and say, I need to step back from this. I fell into this hole of this new world and I'm crawling out of it and trying to really go more to my roots that are for me a better quality of life, to focus less on making more money and doing all that and thinking, what I need to be more present. I want to spend time with my daughter. I want to be there for my family and my friends. And that's what makes me happy, not working more. I love what I do, but it's also, you have to have that balance. So I'm doing a lot of work in that regard of just trying to go back to what I have learned way in the beginning that was good. And then I got sidetracked for a long time. But I'm coming back, I'm doing the work and I'm finding this stuff out. And this is exactly what I talk about when I talk to women. We have all this knowledge. It's there. We just need to dig a little and find out what it is that we want to take with us from the past and what we want to leave behind. Because there's things that we need to leave behind, but there are things from our past that we need to take with us. Grab it, take it, put it in your bag, and get on that new train ride to something else. But pack those good things that you forgot that might have been really great in the past that you just don't do anymore because you got consumed by life. I mean, don't we all? Life and family and things just happen and you forget. So it's time to review.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Magnificent Midlife podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, follow, and share it. Also, giving a 5-star review really helps get the word out. You'll find the show notes at magnificentmidlife.com. That's also where you can get my book, Magnificent Midlife, Transform Your Middle Years, Menopause, and Beyond. Make the very best of your next chapter. Help me change the world, one magnificent midlife woman at a time.